aftermath of it, but it doesn't. This is the beginning of something and not the end. In a million different ways.
836.32.
Not that this opinion is law. We don't know that, but there's a lot to wrestle with in the aftermath of this, and hopefully you can come back as we wrestle with it. Arun Carmon, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that we had you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Again, I'm just sort of composing myself here as I process this. This is that is all in for this evening. The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Good evening, Rachel.
I am absorbing this right now as you are talking about it, Chris. This is, I mean, you and I both need more time to process this than is afforded by the fact that we're live on television right now. But do we share the understanding that this is the first time before a ruling has been issued we have seen what purports to be the draft ruling ever leaked to the press?
That is my understanding. I think Politico more or less indicates that. Of course, it's always hard to prove a negative, but I think that's correct. And I think you and I, who are both kind of SCOTUS buffs and you know have always had an interest in the court, it's a sort of arresting moment because the code of omerta around that institution is so strong and so powerful that both the substance of what is being leaked here and then the communicative signaling happening in the fact of the leak is almost sort of emotional at some deep level because of what it signifies.
Yeah, and I mean, when you were just speaking with Erin Carmon, as you said, you booked her today to talk about this new reporting that Republicans in Washington have been debating and planning on proposing a nationwide abortion ban, you know, a 6-week abortion ban, which is effectively a complete ban on abortion in the United States. And if this ruling is if the ultimate ruling from the court is going to look anything like this, and we're going into a midterm season where the Republicans are poised to take the House and the Senate, then, you know, President Biden is still President Biden, and he would presumably veto such a measure. But in the event that we had a Republican president in 2024, that's where we'd be. We'd be at a, you know, South America style nationwide abortion ban in America.
Just to be clear, it would be, and I can't, you know, no one knows the future, and you, I think, and I agree with it. It would be the first bill. It would be the first bill. It would be H.R. 1, and it would be S1. It would be H.R. 1 in the House. It would be S1 in the Senate. I don't think there's any question about that would be the first bill in a Republican trifecta in a post-Roe landscape. No question.
And the fact that it's being leaked, this is being leaked now, we will have, whatever the ruling is, we will have the ruling before the November election. I mean, this is like a 4-number Sudoku. This isn't a very hard puzzle, right? This is, in terms of people figuring out what the stakes are of their vote in November, in terms of the midterms, putting whichever party in control of either House of Congress will, among other things, determine whether or not we're about to become a country that bans abortion nationwide.
We should also just note, I mean, and obviously this is something you've reported on as well as anyone on all of television. There's, I think, 25, 26 states that have trigger laws such that when Roe gets struck down, abortion becomes illegal that moment, that instant. This is not some process that's going to play out. You could be living in the state watching this right now as a pregnant person, as someone planning on getting pregnant, where the afternoon this happens, your state law says the ruling of the court means that abortion is now illegal after this timeline in your state.
And as we've seen abortion politics, particularly in Republican-controlled states, get harder and harder and harder line in over a very short timeline, as they've gotten close to knowing that a ruling like this is likely coming, we have now started to see. There used to be a taboo on saying that, you know, the doctors would go to prison. They're now saying, yeah, the doctors, you know, in some states, they're now talking about this bluntly, oh yeah, the doctors will go to prison. But even more acutely, there used to be, until very recently, there was a taboo on saying that a woman or even a child who was raped or was the victim of incest, at least they wouldn't be forced by the government to give birth against their will, to carry that pregnancy to term and give birth against their will. That increasingly, literally including, you know, girls who are pregnant as a result of rape or incest, those exceptions are disappearing one by one with each passing week every time a Republican legislature takes up this issue. And so we're now at the precipice of something that's become a much more extreme prospect becoming exceedingly likely. Both of the radicalism and the practicality are speeding toward the same cliff.
That's right. Oklahoma, which signed its law very similar to Texas just a little bit ago. Ohio, where they're proposing legislation. In fact, there was, just some viral sound from a state senator there talking about why it was okay that a woman who was a victim of rape or incest or 14 or 15 years old, it would be okay for the state to force them to carry that pregnancy to term. I mean, I don't know what to say. It is the culmination of something that many people have worked against and fought against and worried about for a very, very long time. And again, I have to say, you have covered this topic as well as anyone on television by far. And it was not surprising for people to follow the court. This was not the outcome that people thought was not going to happen. People listened to oral arguments. The fact that they specifically asked to overturn Roe, which they didn't have to do. The chomping at the bit that happened in oral arguments from the justices who clearly wanted to go right for the apple. None of that's surprising, but to have this draft opinion there on the internet is shocking.
It is shocking, as you said, and as we started discussing here, it's shocking both in substance, and it is also shocking in terms of what it means about the court and what it means about the stakes here that someone was willing to do this. It is just a remarkable thing. Chris, thank you for handling this as legitimately overwhelming breaking news. I'm going to pick this up right now, including with the reporter who just broke this story from Politico. Thank you, my friend.
Go watch that. Thank you.
All right, before I bring on Josh Gerstein, who is the reporter who just broke this story at Politico, let me just summarize once again this breaking news that Chris Hayes and I are both doing our best to respond